Times said that Sri Lanka is the best destination out of some 30 countries, and also the Washington some newspaper. Now these are independent sources that are saying that Sri Lanka is the best country. In fact, I did a presentation in Pune last week, and I was quite bold enough to say that, you know, it's not exaggerating to say that Sri Lanka is probably the safest country in the world now.
And today in the papers there was an article which said successful mission Pune, India. So can you comment on this?
Yeah, that's a continuation of our effort in India. What we did was actually, in the first 2 years, we went to all the major cities: Mumbai, Delhi, Chennai, Bangalore, Hyderabad. And this year, what we want to do is to do the similar promotions in what we call the Tier 2 cities. Now these Tier 2 cities are smaller cities but fast developing, and they are more or less cosmopolitan, you know, the cities that are developing very fast, and there's a huge market potential in these cities. And Pune took us by complete surprise, because for instance, we expected, we have this, you know, all our promotions are very focused, you know, it's, you know, sales pitches, one-to-one meetings and that sort of, and then in the evening we invite everyone, and then we do a presentation, and then we bring in a Sri Lankan dance troupe and we show them a little bit of Sri Lankan culture. Now the one-to-one meetings, we expected only 50 people to show up, because we scheduled it accordingly, but then it went up to about 80, and there were difficulties in coping, because there is an interest for them to come and learn more about Sri Lanka and come to Sri Lanka. And then the evening presentation, we expected 200, I think it reached nearly 300, you know. So that itself shows that the approach is working. So now we are planning to go to Lucknow, Jaipur, Chandigarh, Calcutta, you know, so we'll cover the Tier 2 cities in this year.
Right. So and then also the other question I wanted to ask was, we were thinking of like how to achieve the target set, like for example the 2.5 million by the year 2016, and then you were talking about how important the infrastructure development and so on and so forth. But I was also thinking, if we can also look at tourism as like MICE tourism was one sector, how else can we sort of link tourism with what other sectors and what other connections can we make with respect to tourism, so that we can specifically target niche groups? Because I also have seen the articles you write on the daily news, and there was one article which said something to the effect that tourism and the connection with Buddhism, and that tourism can be a way that Buddhism can be carried. So that is, I guess, a link between tourism and Buddhism. So what are such areas where
Absolutely.
tourism?
Now, you see, for many years we are used to offering this package tours, and there is this itinerary which takes the tourists to the beaches, and then the round trip covering the heritage sites, and then they go back. I think there's a need for us to project certain elements that have not been promoted adequately, of course, due to the problems we had. But it's time that we now start looking at these market niches. Now, in America alone, more than 16 million people practice some kind of yoga, and there's a huge number of people traveling out of Europe seeking this inner peace, you know. And from the Buddhism point of view, yes, now we have, you know, very important places like Anuradhapura and Kandy and all these places, but most of these visits are confined to sightseeing and perhaps pilgrimage worshipping. But I think we have a lot more to offer in terms of, you know, what the Buddhism can offer. So now there are so many meditation centers in Sri Lanka, and there is a need to sort of develop some of these areas so that the visitors who can come and, you know, try out some of these meditation methods, all that, you can't expect them to go through a strenuous and very tedious kind of a program. Then, you know, it discourages them, because they are tourists, you know, they want to try out something. If it is good, then they will continue. So this essence of Buddhism needs to be conveyed, and that can be done through tourism. Then, of course, there's a lot of work to be done. We need to pool the resources of all the scholars I mean, there are a lot of lay people who know this subject, so you need to pull the knowledge, and then you have to have the right centers so that it could be communicated to these niche markets. This is just one example. But having said that, I must also tell you that when you have, that kind of wide diversity, it also creates a marketing problem. If you look at Maldives, it's very easy for them to promote because they can put all their resources and then go on talking about the beaches and the water sports, and it's easy. But when you have sort of diversity from one end to another, it also creates, I mean, so at any given time, which area should be promoted to which market, kind of, because you are dealing with human emotions and, perceptions and assumptions.
So I guess it's a dilemma in marketing where whether you are diluting the effect or whether you're going to harp on the same fact and driving in that fact.
Yeah, but what I'm suggesting is, while we do what we are doing right now, which is working, obviously, that's why we are getting the tourists. And then at the same time, we need to sort of, and I did a piece which will probably appear this week, that is about promoting the areas where these gems are mined, that kind of thing. I mean, if people know that the British Crown carries that blue sapphire which has come from Sri Lanka, obviously there may be some segment of people who would want to come and see how it is done. If you remember, I think it was Lonely Planet some years ago, this young girl who was a narrator, and she dared to go right down that what do you call, the tunnel, and where this illam thing is taken out, and then she was also going so many meters horizontally with the cameraman, and that was a very popular program, I mean, some years ago. So you need to have a few of those which will automatically promote these sites.
So that's the thing. What you said was actually very interesting, and like gems and then tourism and all these interesting aspects that we discover. And what I found very interesting also was that you don't look as Buddhism as a religion where you sort of look at the pilgrimages and things like that, but you look at the fact that there are a lot of people from all over the world who want to find inner peace and to do soul search. So that sort of aspect is giving some greater dimension to the whole thing. So, Mr. Wanigasekera, what are the other such areas where tourism can be linked? Like, for example, is there education tourism that we can think of? Yes, now,
first thing is this infrastructure development that I was talking about. But on par with that, we also need to enhance the training facilities, because you have to have the professionals in the trade providing the right type of service. So, otherwise, the service standards will come down. So that's another area that the tourism authorities are very, very seriously looking at, to ensure that, expanding the hotel school and providing more courses, and then linking up with other universities, getting affiliated, and to ensure that, you have the right type of people going into the market and to the industry to see that our service standards are maintained. So that's another area. And of course, I must tell you that, the government policy, and which is also something that the President is very concerned about, that, all what we do should cascade down to the peripherals. At the end, the poor man should benefit. So tourism has the ability to create a huge number of indirect employment. Actually, the figures show that, the tourism has direct employment of the 100,000, but it's if you do a real study and research, you will find that it can even be more than 500,000. So it has a huge potential of creating indirect employment. So that is why this industry is important. Right now, it is, I think, probably in the 6th or 7th place in the foreign exchange. I mean, our task is probably within the next few years, hopefully, and it will be number 1, and then it will have the potential of creating a large number of employment, thus reducing the unemployment issue in the country.
Right. So we are speaking to Mr. Vipula Wanigasekera. We will take a small break and then we will be back with you soon. Stay with us.